Hello again. I'm Greg Parsons, the curator here at the Camp Landing Museum. We want to talk to you today about another weapon in our collection here, and it's the M1 Carbine and its history.
The carbine is a light shoulder weapon designed to take the place of the pistol.
The new carbine M2.
In the 1930s, the infantry committee decided that they needed a lightweight rifle or carbine for soldiers that didn't necessarily need to carry a full rifle. And so they put out the specifications and asked for manufacturers to provide samples. Several of them did, but the Army was not happy with any of them. And so basically at that point, Winchester gets involved, and Winchester comes up with a design based off of a rifle that they were currently working on, which was going to be the Winchester 30-06 M2 rifle. They decided that they could reduce the size down, rechamber it for the .30 carbine round, and significantly lighten the weapon up. So the Winchester engineers go to work on this. Well, one gentleman that had been hired by Winchester to work on the Winchester M2 rifle was David Carbine Williams. He had developed a gas piston system for that rifle. So they take that system, incorporate it into the carbine with features from several other different Winchester rifles, and the result of that is the M1 Carbine. The Army really liked it, and they began production of it pretty much right away. It was a semi-automatic weapon. It used a 15-round internal box magazine, and it was chambered in the .30 caliber carbine round. Again, these weapons were intended for use with soldiers who didn't necessarily need to carry at that time, or a full-size rifle, the M1. They may have been issued a sidearm because of their jobs, but this gave them something that had a little more range and a little more power to it, or at least that was the theory. There were several variations of the M1 Carbine. One that comes out is the M1A1, the paratrooper version. It's basically the same carbine, the operating system, the receiver and all was the same, but they cut off the stock, they add a pistol grip, and it actually has a folding stock that the paratroopers were able to utilize, making it a much more compact weapon and easier for them to jump with. The paratroopers had essentially a holster or a bag that would attach to the side of their leg, that this would fit in with the stock folded up. They could jump with that. Once they got to the ground, take it out, fold the stock out, and then they had their weapon ready to use. And towards the end of the war, the Army develops what they call the M2 Carbine. And essentially it looks almost exactly the same, although it doesn't have the flat bolt, it has a round bolt. They changed the sights, but the main feature of the M2 Carbine is it now has a selector switch, which is on the side of the receiver right here.
This lever, called the selector, is also the key to the difference in functioning. When it's in the rear position, the M2 fires semi-automatically, like the M1. But when the selector is moved forward, the M2 becomes full automatic and will continue to fire as long as the trigger is held back or until all the ammunition has been fired from the magazine.
So this weapon was a select fire weapon, semi or full auto. With that, they also develop, go away from the standard 15-round magazine and they go to a 30-round magazine. And that's because of the automatic fire.
It's more valuable than ever as a light, accurate shoulder weapon for the close-in type of fighting encountered in the war against the Japanese.
These really don't see much service in World War II, but predominantly during the Korean War and into Vietnam. You still see a lot of M1 carbines being used. The M2 version has an extremely high rate of fire. If you've ever seen one fire, it's pretty amazing.
The rate of fire of the M2 is between 750 and 775 rounds per minute.
It's pretty fast. But anyway, the M1 Carbine and all of its variations, another weapon from World War II and later into Korea and into Vietnam.
Hello, I'm Dr. George Kressman, and I'm the historian here at the Camp Landing Museum. I'd like to invite you to do two things. First, I'd like to invite you to come visit us at the Camp Landing Museum. We're open every day from noon to 4. Secondly, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the Camp Landing Museum channel here on YouTube. Join us and look at the other history videos that we've provided.